think I already answered that, but I'll answer it again for the record. I'm against book banning in all forms. I'm against censorship in all forms because it is against freedom of expression. It is against what we say we believe in as Americans. We don't get to pick and choose what we believe in and then force those beliefs onto other people. That goes against everything that I believe in as a mom, that I believe in as an educator. So I encourage parents to have conversations about the books, have conversations with their student, have conversations with the teachers. So I know as a former English teacher, there's always been books that are banned. Ironically, those are all the books that I have on my bookshelf. Those are a lot of the books that I have taught because they had conversations that started. So we might not agree with the author, we might not agree with what's happening in the story or the plot, but I learned a little bit more about somebody else. I learned about a different perspective. And I believe that's what we're trying to teach our kids. So we might not agree with something, but we're opening up to another world of somebody else who, like I mentioned before, has a different upbringing than we do. So it's a very scary and slippery slope when we have outside influences of the American Evangelical Council saying to our librarians, who are public school librarians, remove these books from the libraries. Absolutely not. And there will not be any book banning in Rocklin because I know hundreds of students and parents and teachers who will not have anything to do with that. So, with that.
We have multiple libraries in Rocklin. So we have elementary school libraries, classroom libraries, high school libraries, public library, and I think there's an opportunity for books to be put in at different places. A book might be banned or pushed out a little at a different level. Like you have a different expectation for an elementary school kid that you do have for a high school kid or a college kid. There's public libraries also. So what I think, there's an opportunity for parents to have the conversation, for parents to have an expectation, talk with the schools, talk with the places. There are some places that books should be, and there's some places that some sensitive topics shouldn't be just because it's not age appropriate. And I think having those conversations within our community, within our club, we can create an opportunity to where we have books at the right places so that kids can get in there. Also, it's an open library, so if kids are very interested, they're going to reach out to it. We all know you can go to a public library anytime you want, you can go to a college library, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes & Noble, and you can pick up any book you want. So there are those opportunities for our kids and our students to go and experience those things. I think it's an opportunity for parents and the kids to have a conversation. What is it that interests you about that topic or something? And that's the conversation that we need to continue to promote here.
Actually look at the books on the list that she's referring to. One of them, some of them I'm not in agreement that they're an issue, but some of them speak of masturbation habits. They speak of one of them says, put your finger in his vagina and taste it. I don't want that in my kid's library. I don't think that's necessary for me. That's interested in that article to actually look at the details in some of those books. There are excerpts that you can find online. And like Derek said, there's a place for those kinds of books. Go to the public library, get them there. They're not a place for them in our schools where any kid can come and choose them. It's definitely not a place in our elementary schools, and I really don't agree that it's a place in our high schools because why would we have parents be allowed to sign out their kid from a sex ed a sex education curriculum, but we can't sign them out of a sex ed book that they can just pull off of a shelf in the library.
So I do think it's important to understand how this process works. And so we do have different libraries, but we have the books that get in our libraries are decided by professional educators, and they're decided by librarians who go through a rigorous process to decide what's right and what our kids need access to and should be able to learn. And they supplement our curriculum. And they supplement our curriculum in a way that is available for any kid, for students that want it. And it's been through a process that I support. And I support them making. And what I would say is that it still becomes, because ultimately, what I don't think we should be in the business of any government body telling parents what's right for their children. You should decide what's right for your child. I agree with that. With all due respect, exactly what you asked for, Kari, that's the facts today. You can today say, my child cannot check that book out from the library, and they cannot. In Rocklin, that is the current policy. We have a process. It's exactly what we want because we were thoughtful. We spent time looking it through. We made it make sense for Rocklin. I've not heard anyone hurt by the books that are in our library today, and all of a sudden, this is a massive issue. It wasn't last year. We made it. We're okay. So if it doesn't work for your family, if it's not appropriate for your family, I respect that. We have a policy to make sure your child will get nowhere near that. But we are dangerous as opposed to you telling others how they should raise their child. And I can't say this strongly enough, that is not Rocklin. It just isn't.
Listen, I am not a fan of banning books, but I am absolutely a fan for listening and addressing parent and teacher concerns with age appropriateness. Our own State of California Education Department tells us to do so as board trustees. Use age appropriateness. Multiple parents and teachers have shared with me this very weekend concerns that they have about sexually graphic books that are in our libraries right now. And the systems that I communicated to them that I thought were in place, I said the very same thing. Oh, you are able. That's actually not true. At our elementary schools, a parent just had a situation where a book came home. They contacted the administration, asked, how did this happen? I was concerned about this. I had shared that, and they said that they had removed classifications from books. First graders, second graders, and third graders. These are young children. Elementary children are very different than middle school children, than high school children. A 5-year-old is very different than a 25-year-old. To use the excuse of they can access it anywhere, that is absolutely not appropriate for me. We are responsible for what our children have access to. May 8th, 2019, our own State Board of Education removed 6 books from their own health education framework. If they think it's appropriate and necessary to do so, by golly, it's appropriate and necessary for us as trustees to do so as well. Now, how do I plan to accomplish that? I plan to accomplish that with a volunteer committee group of parents. Right now, we do have a committee. People have asked, parents have asked, how do I get on that committee? They don't know how and they're not getting responses. I do believe it's appropriate for a trustee to then engage and say, if parents have concerns, they need to have the ability to be on a committee to review the books, share their concerns, and be able to opt out of books that they do not want their children having access to.
Thank you. No, I do not support the banning of books in our libraries, and that does, to say you don't support banning, but I do want to restrict. I thought that I was hearing a lot about parent choice and parent freedoms, and having books in the library that are not part of the core curriculum in a high school library with high school age students who have access to the internet. They're not, it's literature versus the internet. I don't know. I just think this is where it's a parent choice. By banning books, we are taking choices away from parents. By not banning books, you have the right as a parent to talk to your student about what is acceptable in your home, what you want them to read, and have that moment. And no, maybe it isn't easy, but as a parent of RUSD kids, I want my kids to have access to this. I'm a member of the Placer Library Advisory Board. I grew up going to libraries. I think having access to different perspectives and different information, whether or not you want to read it, is very valuable, and it's very American, and I don't want to do anything as a board trustee that will put that into a compromise.